Every time you shop online, you are walking into an environment that's been engineered to make you buy. And I don't mean that in a vague,
oh, marketing is everywhere kind of way.
I mean specifically engineered. Every color, every word, every countdown timer, every only 2 left in stock. None of it is accidental. The products matter, sure, but what matters more is how the decision is designed, shaping what you notice, what feels like a good deal, what seems risky to miss. And most of the time, you don't even realize it's happening. Today, I'm going to break down exactly how this works. I'll show you the tactics, the psychology behind them, and the real brands using them right now. Some of this is genuinely helpful design. Some of it crosses a line. By the end, you'll be able to tell the difference, both as a consumer and as a brand owner. Hi, I'm Bianca. I spent years in e-commerce, first running an agency, now building Seluna. And one thing that's always fascinated me is the gap between what people think makes them buy and what actually makes them buy. We like to believe we are rational. We compare options, weigh the facts, make a sensible choice. But the research tells a completely different story. Let's get into it. Let's start with the most obvious one, scarcity. Only 3 left in stock, sales end in 2 hours, limited edition drop. You've seen these 1,000 times. And they work. Not because you are naive, but because your brain is wired to pay attention to things that might disappear. There's a famous study where researchers gave people cookies from a jar. When the jar was almost empty, people rated the cookies as more valuable and more desirable than when the jar was full. Same cookies, but the scarcity changed the perception. This happens for a few reasons. First, there's value inference. If something is rare, your brain assumes it must be good. Why else would it be running out? Second, there's loss aversion. Missing out on something feels worse than gaining something feels good. That's why last chance lands harder than great opportunity. And third, there's what psychologists call reactance. When you feel like your freedom to choose is being threatened, you want to think even more. Brands know this. Supreme built an entire business model around artificial scarcity. Weekly drops, limited quantities, items that sell out in minutes. It's not a bug, it's the whole strategy. Starbucks does the same thing with the seasonal products. The pumpkin spice latte isn't limited because they can't make more. It's limited because the countdown creates anticipation. No, here's where it gets murky. Booking.com got pressured by EU regulators to change how they show only 2 rooms left and 10 people are looking at this right now. Because in a lot of cases, those numbers were either misleading or impossible to verify. When scarcity is real, it's useful information. When it's manufactured or exaggerated, it's manipulation. If you are using scarcity in your own brand, ask yourself, is this actually true? Could I prove it if someone asked? If the answer is no, you're on the wrong side of the line. Next one, social proof. This is the idea that when we are uncertain about something, we look to other people to figure it out. Think about the last time you bought something on Amazon. You probably didn't read the full product description. You scrolled straight to the reviews. How many stars? How many people bought it? What did they say? Your brain is using other people's experiences as a shortcut. If 5,000 people bought this and most of them are happy, it's probably fine. You don't need to do a full investigation. Amazon knows this. That's why reviews are one of the most prominent features on every listing. DoorDash does it too. They have a most liked items badge that shows up on menu items with strong ratings. It's a decision shortcut. Instead of reading the whole menu, you can just order what everyone else likes. The research backs this up. Studies have shown that changes in star ratings on platforms like Yelp can measurably shift demand. A restaurant that crosses from 3.4 to 3.5 stars actually gets more customers. Not because the food changed, but because the number did. Here's the problem. Social proof only works if it's real. And there's a massive industry built around faking it. Fake reviews, paid testimonials, inflated numbers. The UK Competition Authority has gone after major platforms for exactly this. Because when social proof is polluted, it doesn't just hurt consumers, it destroys trust in the whole system. If you're building a brand, invest in real reviews. Make it easy for happy customers to leave feedback. And never ever fake it. The short-term boost isn't worth the long-term damage. Here's one that's everywhere in e-commerce: anchoring. Anchoring is the idea that the first number you see changes how you evaluate everything that comes after. If I show you a jacket with a tag that says was $200 and now $89, your brain doesn't evaluate the $89 in a vacuum. It evaluates it against the $200. The anchor sets the reference point. And that's why was now pricing is so powerful. You're not just seeing a discount, you are being told what expensive looks like so that the current price feels like a bargain. There's a famous experiment by Dan Early where he has students write down the last 2 digits of their social security number, then bid on items in an action. The students with higher numbers bid significantly more. The anchor was completely arbitrary, but it still shaped their willingness to pay. Retailers use this constantly. Strike through pricing, compare at labels, RRP references, and some of them have gotten into serious trouble for it. Amazon paid penalties in California over allegations that their reference prices were misleading. J.Crew Factory settled a class action over fake original prices. Kyon has faced similar lawsuits. The rule is simple. If your anchor is made up, you are deceiving people. If the was price was never a real price, if no one ever actually paid it, then you're not offering a deal. You are manufacturing a feeling. Anchoring works, but it only stays ethical when the reference is truthful. This one is subtle, but it might be the most powerful of all. Defaults. Defaults are the options that apply if you do nothing. The box that's already ticked, the plan that's already selected, the tip amount that's already filled in. And here's what makes them so powerful. People almost never change them. Not because they agree with the default, but because changing it takes effort and doing nothing is easy. Psychologists call this status quo bias. There's a famous study on organ donation that compared countries with opt-in systems versus opt-out system. In opt-in countries, donation rates were about 50%. In opt-out countries, where you are a donor by default unless you actively remove yourself, rates were above 90%. Same people, same decisions, wildly different outcomes. The only difference was that happened if you did nothing. Brands use this everywhere. Instacart prefills a suggested tip based on your order size and history. Subscription services auto-select the annual plan because it's stickier. And here's where it gets dark. Amazon's Prime enrollment and cancellation flow has been the subject of an FTC complaint alleging that people were enrolled without clear consent and then faced a deliberately difficult cancellation process. HelloFresh paid $7.5 million in California settlement over similar allegations, automatic renewals that were hard to escape. The ethical line here is symmetry. One click to sign up should mean one click to cancel. When you make it easy to say yes and hard to say no, you are not using defaults anymore. You are building traps. Let's talk about how options are presented, because the way you structure a choice can completely change what people pick. This is called choice architecture, and one of the most interesting tools inside it is called the decoy effect. Here's how it works. Imagine you are choosing between 2 subscription plans. Plan A is basic, is cheap but limited. Plan B is premium, more features but expensive. People are split. Some want value, some want quality. Now add a third option. Plan C. It's priced close to Plan B, but it's clearly worse. Fewer features, same price. Nobody picks Plan C, but suddenly way more people pick Plan B, because now Plan B looks like the obvious smart choice. It dominates the comparison. The decoy doesn't exist to be chosen. It exists to make another option look better. Dan Early made this famous with an example from The Economist. They offered 3 subscription options. Online, only for $59, print only for $125, and print plus online for $125. The print only option at the same price as print plus online makes no logical sense unless you realize it's a decoy. It's there to make the combo feel like a steal. You see this in coffee shops with sizing. You see it in SaaS pricing tiers. You see it anywhere someone wants to nudge you towards a particular option without telling you directly. Is this unethical? It depends. If you are designing tiers to match real customer needs, that's just good product design. If you are inventing fake options purely to manipulate the comparison, you are starting to cross a line. The question is whether you are helping people choose or tricking them into choosing what you want. This one explains why you keep coming back to certain brands without even thinking about it. Habits are behaviors that become automatic through repetition. You don't decide to check your phone first thing in the morning. You just do it. The cue triggers the routine, and over time, it stops requiring conscious thought. Brands engineer this deliberately. Loyalty programs are the most obvious example. Starbucks Rewards turns every coffee into progress. You earn stars, you fill a meter, you unlock free drinks. The program rewards you for buying, but more importantly, it trains you to buy again, because once you're halfway to a reward, walking away feels like losing progress. McDonald's does the same thing with My McDonald's Reward. Domino has its own version. Every major food brand now has an app designed to convert occasional customers into repeat buyers through exactly this mechanism. What makes this especially sticky is something called variable reinforcement. This comes from behavioral psychology, the idea that rewards are more powerful when they are unpredictable. Slot machines work this way. So do many loyalty programs with surprise bonuses, double points days, and random perks. The ethical concern here is that habit loops can exploit vulnerable people. Compulsive spenders, people with addictive addictive tendencies, even kids who don't understand what's happening. If you are designing a loyalty program, build in guardrails. Make the math transparent. Make opting out easy. Don't punish people for skipping a purchase. Habit design should make repeat buying feel good, not feel like a trap. The last concept I want to cover is one most people overlook: microcopy. Microcopy is the small text in interfaces, the button labels, the error messages, the little explanations next to the form fields. It seems minor, but it has an outsized impact on whether people complete the purchase or abandon the page. Here's the principle behind it: processing fluency. When something is easy to read and understand, people trust it more. They feel more confident. They keep going. When something is confusing, like jargon, vague words, unclear next steps, people hesitate, and hesitation kills conversions. Check out research from Baymart Institute shows that unclear error messages are one of the biggest causes of cart abandonment. Not because people don't want to buy, but because they can't figure out what went wrong or how to fix it. This cuts both ways. Microcopy can be used to clarify and help, explaining shipping times, making return policies clear, confirming what happens when you click on a button. Or it can be used to obscure and manipulate, burying fees in the fine print, making cancel buttons hard to find, using confusing language to discourage opting out. The FTC's complaint against Amazon specifically cited interface design that obscured important information and made cancellation unnecessarily difficult. That's microcopy as a weapon. If you are building a checkout flow or a subscription page, read every word out loud. Ask yourself, would a first-time visitor understand exactly what's happening? If the answer is no, fix it. Good microcopy comes from clarity, not cleverness. Let me bring this back together. Everything I've shown you today isn't inherently good or bad. They are tools, and like any tool, they can be used to help people or to exploit them. The brands that build real loyalty are the ones that use this principle to make the buying experience better, not just more profitable. Because trust compounds and manipulation erodes it. If you want a simple framework to audit your own brand, I've put together a free checklist: 5 questions to make sure you are persuading ethically, not crossing the line. It's called the Ethical Persuasion Checklist, and the link is in the description. If you found this useful, subscribe. I'm going to keep breaking down what actually works in e-commerce, the strategy, the psychology, and the systems behind it. See you in the next one.